SLU International Business Now, Conversations That Matter is a podcast developed by the Boeing Institute of International Business in St. Louis University's Chaffetz School of Business. Special thanks to founder Dr. Sung Kim for his grant to support the launch of this podcast.
On December 4th, don't miss your chance to connect with the future of global agriculture at the 2024 Bear International Business Conference. You'll engage with agricultural technology leaders and explore St. Louis's ag-tech ecosystems. Our day kicks off with a morning panel featuring industry experts, followed by our keynote speaker. The afternoon offers a deep dive into ag-tech through roundtable discussions with local industry leaders. So mark your calendar, 8 a.m. December 4th, and join us in the Bush Student Center on the St. Louis University campus. Be part of the global conversation driving agricultural innovation. For details on the Bear International Business Conference, click the link in the show notes below.
I'm your host, Jeff Klopfenstein, on International Business Now, Conversations That Matter. Today I'm having a conversation with Greg Gorman, who's the Chief Growth Officer for Nidec. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here, Jeff.
Can you tell us about the Nidec story? How did this group of 4 employees with a tape recorder motor start a business?
It was your typical classical venture business that was started in the mother's garage. So Mr. Nagamori, who's our founder, established the company Nidec 50 years ago, and he had a dream of building the best electric motors in the world, and he wanted to be the global #1 leader in electric motor business. So he started there, and basically with 3 employees and himself, he started out and was looking for customers. One of his first big global customers, so very early on, was 3M. And he went to the United States, traveled all around the United States by car and by airplane, discussing with potential customers, what kind of challenges do you have for an electric motor? And he ended up at 3M. They had this big challenge, which was, how do you reduce the size of the electric motor for a tape recorder? Because at this time, shrinking the tape recorder was quite big. How could you shrink that down to a smaller form factor? And that was the opportunity that really launched Nidec, I think, into the leagues that they're in today and being a global business. And he writes in his book that, he had no idea how to do it, but he said, I can do it. And he repeats that to himself, I can do it, I can do it. But they went away, they went back to Japan and worked on it, and they did come out with this product. It was really revolutionary. It's going into the spindle motor of a tape recorder that eventually moved into what you have for all these optical disk drives or floppy disk drives. It was a floppy disk drive that had a spindle motor. Then you had a hard disk drive that had a spindle motor inside of that. Blu-ray players, all of these types of things that the technology that he had started to develop in the tape recorder, he continued to refine and refine and refine to be able to do pretty amazing things that really were critical for the IT evolution.
You're the Chief Growth Officer for the Motion and Energy division. So what's the relationship of that group to all of Nidec Corporation?
So Motion and Energy is a division inside of Nidec. It's about $3 billion in sales today, and it is primarily international business, a global. We don't really have much operations in Japan today. We were owned by a Japanese company. They kind of started, the origins of it started in 2010 with a couple of acquisitions. But we've continued to build through additional acquisitions, but also through organic growth. And we have very big ambitions when it comes to organic growth. We're looking at 15% plus growth rate. Oftentimes the markets that we're in are not growing at those levels, but that's the challenge that we put out to the team. How can we grow faster? And that's really what my focus is as Chief Growth Officer, is to be focused on the organic growth, to be able to reach those high ambitious targets, as well as to look at inorganic growth. And the inorganic growth, they kind of go very well together, because as we're developing these strategies for how are we going to achieve the ambitious growth targets, we identify gaps in our offering, and how do we fill those gaps? that's where inorganic strategies, the M&A or a strategic investment or a joint venture can fill the gaps that we have with our existing offering.
And 15% growth, so that's very ambitious. And what sort of international business strategy enables Nidec's worldwide success?
Nidec is a Japanese company, but at the same time, we follow an approach which is a federated approach to management. And what that does is it kind of cascades. The electric motor space is very, very big. You can't live your life, your daily life, without touching an electric motor. And you just don't know that you're touching an electric motor. So they're all around us. It's a ubiquitous product. But the challenge is that each end application for an electric motor is quite different. And so that requires different approaches. You have commonalities in terms of the components, the raw materials that go into the electric motor, but how you sell that electric motor, how you design it, it's completely different depending on what the end application is and the business models that you approach. So having that mindset of a federated approach to management, you really are able to empower the local management teams to be able to develop the solutions that the customers need. And so I think that that's one of the strengths that we have. We also have a global footprint today. We started when Nidec was formed 50 years ago, we were in Japan, but then we quickly moved to, as the information technology space moved to Singapore and Southeast Asia. We established many factories down in Southeast Asia. Over time, it moved into China. And so we had a big Asian presence. And I would say from early 2000s, that's when we started to build up our capabilities in North America and Europe as well. So today, when we have a customer that is looking to produce a product in any location around the world, we're able to supply them where they want, when they want. And that's one of the strategic advantages that we have from a global perspective and how we run our business internationally.
How do you navigate the challenges that come with being international in scope and footprint in so many countries?
Well, I mean, again, it's this, the federated approach really helps out a lot. We're thinking about the challenges. It's really more focused on what is the customer's challenge and how can we solve for their problem. So we have engineering teams all around the world that are able to address those issues. We see many of the customers that we have, are similar to us in terms of they've grown through acquisitions, and it might be a European customer that has recently acquired an American business, and they probably are working with multiple motor suppliers, but they'd like to consolidate around one player. And so us being able to say, hey, we can supply you out of the US or North America, we can supply you out of Europe, or we could supply you out of Asia, it really becomes a compelling solution. Again, it's really the federated approach to management.
Mm-hmm. And you have local people in all these locations.
Yep.
Right?
Our management team for Motion Energy, we have some Japanese members on the team, but we also have a number of Europeans, we have a number of Americans on the team. It is really a global team. And I think that that's critical for our success.
Speaking of talent, then what do you look for in management hires?
It's a global mindset. How can you work in this global environment that we have with customers that are global in nature and the full footprint that we have all around the world? And that you're not, this is the challenge when you have kind of distributed leadership, is that you might feel like you're fighting your lonely battle. And no, you're part of Nidec, and you need to be reaching out, you need to be thinking, how can I use the resources around the world to be able to address the customer's desire? Because we have the ability to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we have projects where work can be handed from one place in the world to the next, so that we can continually work. And that's the key in our business, is how can we deliver very rapidly to our customers. Speed is critical.
So you're the Chief Growth Officer. Tell me what the Chief Growth Officer does.
It's focused on organic and inorganic growth. But maybe if we dive it more deeper into what organic growth is, we start with an annual strategy review practice, which is to look at market segmentation. Because in order to achieve 15% growth, you can't just look at the market as a monolith. You have to dig in and identify what markets are growing at faster rates. And so that's part of it. So it's a lot of market segmentation, and really figuring out where are the high growth opportunities. Then we pick which game are we playing. And then the next thing is, okay, now we know what game we want to play. Then it's how do we win? And so we get into all the tactics that we need to do, and the longer term, what are the capabilities that we require to be able to win this game? And so there's a lot of comparative studies with our competition. Where do we stack up? What are the key buying factors for our customers? How do we stack up against our competitors? Where are those gaps? Where are the things that we're strong in? How do we sell properly? But this finding those gaps there, then how do we fill those gaps? And that ends up becoming an issue of investment and identifying, and this is looking out at a 5-year time horizon. We do this as an annual process. But it's critical because it's important that you have that longer term vision in order to be able to realize the dreams and the ambitions that we have.
Tell me the Nidec slogan.
So all for dreams.
Okay, tell me what that means.
Yeah, that's the nature of Nidec. And it really goes back to Nagamori-san's initial focus, which was, I want to be the number one player in electric motors. That's his dream. And then it's the dream. So everybody knows that we're going to be a leader in electric motors and all the peripheral things that come along with electric motors. And what we try to do to promote this growth is it has to be about a dream. You have to have, because in order to get that high growth, you have to be looking at new markets. We call it 3 new. It's a new market, it's a new product, it's a new customer. And that's challenging to do. It's not easy. Once you get established in a certain place, it's a very, very comfortable business. But we can't rest on our laurels. Technology is constantly changing. We have to be looking to the future. And that is where the strategy review comes in, as well as to identify how is the market changing, and we need to adapt or we'll have big problems. So looking for new things and having those dreams, having the ambitious targets, that's, I think, ultimately the culture for Nidec. And it is a very much engineering driven company, and so I think it's a powerful message to our young engineers that are coming in with lots of hopes, with lots of ambitions, with lots of dreams to be able to develop the next market, the next application for electric motors.
We talked a lot about motors, the motion part.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the energy part and how the energy strategy fits into your 5-year plan.
What happens is that, perfect example is our passenger car joint venture that we have with Stellantis. We're making the main drive traction motor. It's kind of the heart of the car. There will be batteries that will be associated with the electric vehicle. They need to be recharged. Mm-hmm. And so we happen to have the recharging capability, working with high power electronics to be able to do the DC fast charging. And so that's one aspect of the energy business that we are moving into charging infrastructure. We also look at the opportunity with the battery energy storage business that we have, where we're using lithium-ion batteries to provide utility-grade solutions, ensure that when you turn on that light, that the electricity is going to turn on, your lights will turn on. And it's all about grid stability. As we add more and more renewable energy onto the grid, and we participate in that as well, we're doing the pitch control systems for wind blades. When you got your windmill, in order to optimize the energy production from that windmill, you need to control very carefully the pitch of the blades, and so that they capture the wind in the right way so it's maximizing energy generation. So we're touching into this electrical infrastructures business in many different aspects. So it's kind of a natural flow from the motion piece, where it is using a lot of electricity, and also we are doing electronic control. So it's not just the electric motor. You want to be able to increase the efficiency of that electric motor, so we attach electronics. So we have the knowledge from that aspect, and then also for grid stability type of applications. So low voltage, medium voltage, all different types of power electronics that are associated with the electric motors.
You talked a lot about the success of Nidec. Tell me your greatest challenge that you're facing in your role.
We call it dream dreamers, right? That's what the type of person we're looking for to join Nidec. And what that means is that there's a lot of growth opportunities that are out there. And so I would say one of the most difficult things that I have to do is to, if we find projects that the market dynamics have changed and what may have seemed like a very attractive opportunity starts to dry up, and it's not the right thing. And we have, infinite imagination, but we have finite resources. We have to make those difficult decisions. So that is one of the biggest challenges of the job, because we want to support the growth in all different ways, but sometimes we need to make tough decisions. We're going to stop this project, we're going to prioritize this other one. So I think that's pretty natural in business, but it's never easy.
Yeah, the bright idea of someone, right, we're going to put this on the shelf for a while and redirect your resources.
Yeah.
Right. Greg, you've been with Nidec now a long time. What's the accomplishment that you're proudest of?
I think it's building this group that we've had. The Motion Energy Group was part of a larger organization that was called ASIM. It was Appliance, Commercial, Industrial Motor Business. And really, 2010, we did the acquisition of Emerson Motors and Controls business here in St. Louis. That was in 2010. I was involved in the original acquisition, and that built a group called ASIM, Appliance, Commercial, Industrial Motors. And since 2010, I came here to St. Louis in 2013 to be more closely involved with the business. We had done 3 acquisitions in addition to the original Emerson deal, and we were probably a little bit over $1 billion of sales at that time. Today, if we look at Motion and Energy and what we call the new ASIM business, because we basically got to a size of over $6 billion, we decided to split the business to have that focus. I look at being involved with all of the activities, the inorganic growth through acquisitions, but also the organic growth, because we're focused 50% organic growth, 50% inorganic growth. And being able to realize that, taking $1 billion business to something that's now a little bit over $6 billion, reaching to $7 billion. And even within my Motion and Energy business, we have very ambitious targets. We want to be we're $3 billion today. We want to be $10 billion by 2030. So very, very aggressive approaches that we take. That's the Nidec culture, and I'm very, very happy to work in that type of environment where growth is paramount.
Any closing thoughts that you have for our audience?
Talking with the SLU students, I know that the international business, it is very interesting and it's great. I would encourage people to look for companies as you're doing the search for a job, to look at companies that are global in nature, that are going to be able to take advantage of the capabilities that you've developed at SLU. And Nidec is a great example, I think, of a lot of the very interesting businesses in St. Louis that are competing on a global stage. And we look forward to receiving resumes.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Greg.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for tuning in to the SLU International Business Now Conversations That Matter podcast. We invite you to subscribe to this podcast series so you don't miss any future episodes. To learn more about the Executive Master of International Business program, please visit biib.slu.edu. Again, that's biib.slu.edu.